All right, hello and welcome. In this video series, we're going to focus on color graphics and typography. So our agenda here, the first bullet point is going to focus on understanding the different color schemes, how the different color formats such as the hexadecimal or RGB, the HSL value, and then we're going to talk about linear and radial gradients and how you can actually use those to be very creative in terms of the background and having different colors show in a particular way. And there's some creative visual effects that you can add to your web page. And then in our next video, we're going to focus on understanding graphics. We're going to look at a number of different file formats, such as the PNG, the GIF, the JPEG, the SVG, very powerful file format that a lot of web developers are using nowadays to make their images responsive, but also you can create a level of animation or implement a level of animation with the SVG. But we'll get to this in our second video. But first, let's go back and talk about some of the concepts related to color. So here are a few things here when dealing with color that you want to be mindful of when you're implementing color into your site. And one of the big things here is that color and typography and graphics is really what make your site pop. But here's a few rules, right? For the color, choose only a few colors to set the tone of your site. And what I mean by a few colors here is that you want to try to have decide upon a color palette, no more than typically 5 colors, where you would have a color that's primarily dominant in your site, and then something like an accent color. And so there's this website here, a link to a color palette generator. So we'll open it up in a different tab here. And what they'll do here is they'll give you a number of different type of colors that they'll give you that you can use within your site. And some of these color schemes follow a particular scheme. And we'll talk about color schemes in just a second here. So press the generate button here. So behind here, it'll show you 5 different colors that you can potentially use. And it'll give you the hexadecimal color code. And the thing about it is, how do you begin to use these colors, right? You're not going to have all of these colors dominant in your site. You may just choose one, such as this magic mint color for your background, or it may be for your H2, your heading 2 paragraph. I'm sorry, your H2 heading tag. But then you may have the accent color that may show up only when you hover, such as this African violet. And so you have to come up with a particular strategy in terms of how you're going to have that, how your color is going to show up in your site. And we'll take a look at some sites with some great color themes here. So color sets the tone for your site. It communicates meaning, and you'll see that color is really when you really boil it down, it has to deal with some aspect of culture and how people perceive certain colors. Here, poor use of color distracts from the content. Colors convey important meaning to users. It's kind of what I was referring to. There's some aspect of culture that plays into it. Different cultures see color in different ways. And then there's many, color can enhance the presentation of information, right? So there's some few things about colors here. We all know about the color wheel from grade school, right? There's the color wheel here. We have the primary colors, blue, yellow, red, secondary colors. If you split that color wheel in half, you have warm colors. On the other half of that wheel, you have cool colors. And we're going to talk about these different color schemes here. Here are some that you would need to know. You'll find that some of these will show up in some of our assessments, but monochromatic is essentially different shades. You pick one color on the wheel and it's different shades. Analogous, these are basically colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. So you pick a color on the color wheel and then you just go to either the right or to the left. Complementary is colors directly opposite of each other, right? And you think that the complementary name would actually be colors that are very similar, but they're actually stark difference. And then here are a few others. Split complementary, which is essentially kind of like complementary, but it's essentially the colors that are opposite each other from the direct, that on the side of the direct color that is opposed to. So in this case, the color that it's opposed to is this one here when my mouse is hovering, but it's next to them. And what it does is it forms a triangle, right? So you can kind of think of split complementary as a triangle. And the same thing with triadactic, right? It kind of forms this triangle. And then here's a definition of these to the left here, and then it's tetradic, which is double complementary. and it forms a square. So the question is, what is the deal with all these different color schemes, right? In this next slide here is a video, and that's going to talk about the use of color. And I would say this is a really well done video, and you're going to see those color schemes pop up. You'll see that with the complementary color scheme, this one here, right? You'll see that in a lot of, like you think about, what is it? Fruity Loops, right? You think about, what's the tiger? Frosted Flakes, right? A lot of those marketing or those packaging for those cereal boxes follow a complementary color scheme because it stands out. It catches the eye of the end user. And so if you think about a kid that's going down a cereal aisle, what's going to catch their eye? And a lot of times here you'll see that a lot of people put a lot of thought behind those color schemes, and what they try to do is they'll use a complementary color scheme to catch the eye of different folks. And here, monochromatic, like I said, these are colors that are next to each other. Sometimes it presents a calm or a soothing feel to your website. And again, going back to here, colors convey meaning to users. And so you have to be very strategic in terms of how you're going to implement color, because it really sets the tone of your site. Again, go ahead and pause this video and watch this video here. Like I said, this video does a really good job with helping us understand some of the concepts that we just talked about here. All right, so hopefully after watching that video, you have a better understanding of how color is very meaningful, and some of the things that you don't want to do and some of the things that you may want to do. Before I end this video, let me just talk about a few more things here. When I first taught this class, I asked the student, where did you grab your color palette from? This student did a pretty good job with implementing color, and I was kind of blown away by their selection of the color palette that they selected for their site, but also their implementation of the color. But the student just said he Googled the color palette, and that's not a bad idea. So if you just go to a regular browser here, let's just say best color palette, and so here are 50 gorgeous color schemes from stunning websites. And so you can just do some research to look at whatever other people have done in their sites. And so here it'll show you a few here. Let the site load up here. All right, so this one here, like I say, site color communicates meaning, and this one is colorful and balanced, but this is the color palette for this site. This one here, this one is kind of more of a natural and earthy tone feel, fresh and cool. And one of the things I do want to point out is that you don't have to make use of all the colors in your site. You may just have a few colors that really stand out, and the rest are just kind of like accent colors. For instance, let me show you in terms of the site that we're building this semester and some of the pages I've built in the past here. And as that's loading up here, let's just continue to scroll. But nonetheless, I would say you can do some research, look at some other sites, look at some other blogs like this one here that shows you a number of different color palettes, and that will give you some idea of what, kind of give you some direction on where you want to go with your color palette. But if you look at mplsrenters.com, this site does have a color palette. It's like this dark gray, and we have this blue. There's 2 shades of blue on this site, and so you'll see that this blue is kind of like my accent color that I'm implementing into the site here, right? So when you hover, there's a blue color, but throughout the rest of the site, there's a lot of graphics, and it's okay to use white background. That is actually good, right? So you'll see that some sections of my site has this white background, and most of the text in my site is black. And so, like I said, and then here you'll see that accent color within the footer, this bluish color. So your site doesn't have to be dominated with your color palette, but just at least have a strategy for how you're going to implement color into your site, and be strategic in terms of what would be that accent color that you would have, and then also what's going to be the dominant color of your site. And so if you have any questions about those things, feel free to respond to this video, or put it into the post of this video, or email me. But like I said, really what makes a site pop is the effective use of the color, the typography, and the graphic strategy. In the next video here, what I'm going to do is talk about specifying color, and then talk about radial gradients. and how you can actually effectively use that to kind of create some visual appeal in your site. So stay tuned, and then we'll get into the graphics video.